Okay, we're looking at the last position. Yes, we made it across the cage positions. So we're in the D position up here, but really it's the D bar position. But cage is implemented inversely on P5 if you want to just consider it caged. Okay? Then it spells caged, kind of thing. We'll see if that's, you know, too much fluency, too much variability can be confusing. So I looked at cage from the top here. That way the E string's the bottom string. It's almost like regular guitar tuning. E is the bottom string. Okay, it's just that it's in P4 here, so it's E, A, D, G, and instead of going to B, it goes to C, because it's the inverse of P4, not the mirror image of a regular guitar. I've thought about changing the tuning of the P5, but then we don't have cello tuning anymore. We have a low B instead of a low C, and I've already down-tuned this to see it as it is, so we don't want to take it down another string, another tone, half. So here it is, it's the B minor. Now the bottom string, apparently they're saying don't play it. It would be root down here. If I could get my thumb around that B, we'd be good, in good shape. But and then the 3 up there if you want to play it. So action fingers, if you were bowing, you'd be bowing these guys, but I can get this on the guitar. A nice B minor. Okay. And that's the last natural minor position. I gotta let little bow in. Okay, moving right along. So as you know from my previous videos, we usually don't make it across the board on caged. Okay, and we want to get to the next chart. Just a word on the doubles. The doubles do work. The reason I have the doubles down here is so I can get a full pentatonic on the P5. Okay, so it would be root 2, 3, and then 5, 6 root. Okay, 2, 2, 3, 5, 6 root 3, 6 root 2, because the pentatonic, root 2, 3, 5, 6, 3, 5, 6. Took me a second to get to that. So I didn't have time to make all these guys doubles. So on the bottom we have the double string shapes. Why again? Why are the cages bigger on P5? So we can get the full tri-pentatonic. Not just the one pentatonic, but all 3. Alright, now the problem with the ED shape, let's look over at the E shape right here. The actual E shape is, and this is an isolated problem. Okay, this is another problem. It's not the fact we're looking at a mirror image of a perfect P4 guitar tuning. It's not that we're down C tuned in the cage system. It's that we have a half position, and this is similar to the guitar. We have a half position at the beginning. That's all it is. Okay, so for instance, if I'm playing a C-shaped A flat here, and I want to go to the F, it's going to be an E shape. Not, is it the F? No, it's the D. It's the D flat. So A flat to D flat. Just think of it, A to D. Not analog to digital. Okay, so if we took that F and moved it down, that F shape. Sorry, I just keep saying F. That D flat shape, and move it down here, we can't get that. We can't get that shape. That's the third problem that we have. So we would do a half shape at that point. Have that little half shape, because because it's the fifth, so we can do that familiar 5 chord there, that little 5 chord. It's a half shape, and you can do every one of them that extends below the fret nut into the sunken zone. Now, so that's what happens with the E shape there. But remember, these are tripentatonic. Now the E shape that happens to not need to, yes it does, it happens to go to the 7. And that's a very important note there. That's 7 right there. So if we're playing if we want to play tripentatonic now, tripentatonic, the R here is only the E shape. When we go to the A shape, we're going to play the A shape pentatonic. But when we go to we want a C shape pentatonic, we're going to need that 7. Because if we're doing 1, 4, 5, and that's what tripentatonic is, it's 1, 4, 5 in the E shape up here. That's 1, and then 4, and then 5. See how the root went to the 7? Like that? I did that in B, by the way. So, well, I should have done it in C. But it doesn't matter. So we're going to need to dip down there in that tripentatonic. That's why the tripentatonic cages are slightly bigger than just one chord shape. But they have to be to properly define the diatonic scale. That's the cage for the diatonic scale, the tripentatonic. So we've got the long cages down here, but whoa, up here we've got the short cages, because we can do that. We can do that. As a matter of fact, you can count up by going down the mirror image 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 would be down here. We know what that is, right? That is just the half position there. So in the second position, we got 5, 6, 7 root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root 2, 3, 4. We can count down like that, and we can use that to make chords there. So maybe we should move on to the next chart. All right, we're back. We're talking about P5 and P4 tuning. And this particular diagram here, I'll just have to get out of the way. This is just a little space filler up here, P4 on P5. So here's where the cage shapes the chords would come about. As you know, they're kind of jumbled, the chords on fiddle violin, because they're not like root chords or an inversion. They're like root 5, 3 chords and root 6, 3 chords, and then the next thing up would be what, like so we would see we have, say, 3 root 5, and then the next one would be a 3 there. It kind of skips. So P5 kind of skips a triad member for each one of its chords. Let's see if that's true. So we would normally go 3, 5 root, we've skipped the 5th. We go root to the 5th, we've skipped the 3rd. We go 5 to the 3, we've skipped the root. So the root would be up here, right? Or it would be down here. So P5 always skips one of the triad members to make its chord. So obviously we have to go up an extra interval there. So that's unique. And like I say, the G position would start down here. We can do the chords in caged. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so we have arrived at chart 4